Good morning. It is 10:02 a.m.
I bet you've been sitting in
on Friday, August 8th, 2025. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. Hope everyone had a good breakfast because it's quite a lineup today. So we'll get started immediately. Item number one is receive the 2024 annual report presentation from Lee McCormick of Lone Star Pace. Invite Lee to come up and provide the report and the presentation and see what questions we have.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Lee McCormick, Lone Star Pace. I actually have our official annual report I'd like to hand out, if that's okay. My
Absolutely.
Gal, so she spent 3 months on it, and I darn well better hang this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have a
Thank you.
brief presentation kind of summarizing our activities of 2024, which was a very successful year for PACE, not only here in Wichita County, but also statewide. Let's see if I can get this right. So a little bit about Lone Star Pace. I know you guys have seen us before, but we are the county's program administrator for your Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, or PACE program. We've been doing program administration for local governments since 2003. With regards to our PACE program, which was started in 2017, we didn't close our first transaction until 2020. We've closed almost $350 million of PACE financing statewide on projects with total capital expenditures over $1.5 billion. Total projects that we've done nationwide has been a little bit over $45 billion to date. Those are programs like Property Assessed Clean Energy, New Market Tax Credits, Recovery Zone Facility Bonds, and Tax-Exempt Private Activity Bonds. So we kind of have a whole portfolio of programs that we work on, which all relate to private dollars going into private projects, but they require some level of governmental oversight or approval or compliance monitoring.
Just to repeat that, no public money.
No public money involved or administration, and in fact, the county actually made a little bit of money on the Wichita project that closed last year. So very proud of that project. It's one of our favorite projects. We've actually won a couple of awards on the project. Kind of what we do, we basically administer the program. One of the biggest lifts we do is make sure that people know that Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing is out there, because it's a fairly new program. Even though it's been out there for 10 years, it's really only been adopted wholeheartedly probably in the last 3 to 5 years, where developers have kind of taken notice. Because prior to 5 years ago, we had plenty of capital out there in the markets. Everybody had their senior lenders, they had their equity lined up. Nobody looked at any types of alternative source of financing like PACE financing. So just as a reminder, what is commercial property assessed clean energy financing? It is long-term, low-cost financing for projects that implement energy or water efficiency improvements. If a developer basically is building a new building and he goes above code by at least 5%, he can access this type of financing. If somebody's rehabbing an old project that doesn't meet code, to bring it up to code, they can access these types of financings. Typically for a new construction project, up to 35% of the total capital required will typically qualify for PACE. And we're going to get into the specifics of what those types of improvements are. But it's a great way for counties and cities to encourage energy and water conservation with a carrot by allowing them to access this longer term financing that's secured by an assessment on the property. So the whole reason the county is involved is because the lender on a PACE financing has a security interest in the property, just like an ad valorem tax. So those lenders know that whether the current property owner or the next property owner is involved in the project, they have to pay that loan back just as if it was a property tax. So what are the types of assets qualified? Really any type of commercial, industrial, multifamily type of building will qualify. Governmental buildings do not qualify technically, but if there is a public-private partnership where there's a long-term ground lease of governmental property to a private entity, you can actually utilize PACE so long as the PACE financing is a shorter term than the lease. And the types of improvements, what we tell people is PACE financing goes for pretty much anything in the building that's not sexy. Your HVAC system, LED lighting, cool roofs, high efficiency windows, doors, and all the conduit. It's not just the unit for HVAC system, it's basically all the ductwork, all the electrical, all the control systems would qualify for the PACE financing. Same thing for low flow bathroom fixtures, not just a shower head, it's all the piping that brings into an affiliated structure for that. So again, when you're looking at a new construction, typically about 35% of your total construction cost. Where is Lone Star? We currently have 20, I think we're up to 27 cities and counties here in Texas, but those 27 cities and counties represent roughly 80% of the population. So we've seen a big growth. We typically try to have a managed growth with regards to our program. We try to add maybe 1, 2, 3 municipalities per year just to make sure that we're growing, we're still servicing our existing clients like Wichita County. So here, as I mentioned, one of our biggest lifts is our outreach program. How do we get the word out about PACE? I mean, last year alone, we did 297 in-person meetings, 71 webinars, 18 educational blogs, which I freely admit, I don't even know what a blog is yet, but my marketing gal does, and she handles all that. 8 panel spots, which we found have been very good. When we go to like a BizNow event and we're speaking to developers who are actually usually in process of a project or they're looking at a project. So we've really gotten a lot of traction with regards to doing panelists on conferences. Media mentions, 631. Awareness campaigns, again, I don't know what that is, but we did 57 of them. And then LinkedIn impressions, 40,000 and 84,000 website visits. And kind of who are we talking to make sure we're getting the word out there? Obviously, we're talking to the developers and property owners, the capital providers, whether it's the PACE capital providers. We currently have over 20 capital providers in our program that are willing to provide capital to the various projects. Because we don't provide the money. We work with lenders that specialize in PACE financing, and they provide the capital. So when we find a project, we basically will refer that developer to our website where they can basically contact any of the PACE lenders to get bids on their project and term sheets. We talk to service providers, chambers of commerce, and EDC officials. I mean, anybody who's got a project that's kind of working on breaking ground or putting together the capital stack is usually where we're talking. One of our biggest projects of last year, we did a viewpoint series with Dennis Quaid. It went out to 60 million households, and also included 1 million targeted emails. So that was kind of our major push for the marketing and hitting the main media to try and get the word out for PACE and make sure people know it's available. Just a little bit about the history and kind of so you can kind of see the traction that we've got. PACE was actually implemented by the state legislature in 2013. It wasn't really active until the 2015 legislature because there were some fixes that needed to go in, so it's been around for 10 years. 2017 is when we were established. We did our first transaction in 2020, one small $6 million transaction. 2021, we did 5 transactions for $12 million, so we basically doubled the amount of PACE financing. 2022, we quadrupled it, basically $45 million, but there's only 5 transactions, so larger transactions, smaller number of transactions, bigger dollar amounts. We doubled again in 2023, 15 transactions for $89 million, and then last year we doubled our volume again to $185 million. So we're seeing a lot of good traction and adoption statewide of the PACE program.
Any bills this session that affected the program?
No, there's not. Right now, there are a couple glitches in the statute that we'd like to fix, but they're just so small, and there hasn't been a stakeholder group that's really kind of ramped up to get anything. So that was, for better or for worse, it was left out of the legislature. It's a workable program right now that could be better.
Yeah, okay.
Just a breakdown of the projects that we did last year. The majority of them were hospitality. Obviously, hotels were a good candidate for PACE because you have a lot of energy and water usage in those buildings. So they look very hard to include PACE in projects when they're building them. Industrial, we had 2, one of them being the Panda Biotech project here in Wichita County. Retail, we had 2, and then office, data centers, and others, we had 1 each. So pretty good diversification overall of the types of programs or projects that are using PACE. And then just for last year's projects alone, we take a look at the utility savings, 7.2 million of kilowatt hours annually on those 2024 projects, and then basically 6.9 million gallons of water annually saved. I can't really translate. I have to have my person put graphics in there so I can translate that into 56 million water bottles, and 548 Texas homes basically were offset by those types of improvements. This is a slide we typically provide for the developers so they can kind of see, well, what is the advantage of PACE? And this is kind of a relatively straightforward example. That's a lot of times what we're seeing. Traditionally, you might see a capital stack that includes 30% equity, 20% mezzanine financing, which is high-cost short-term financing, and then 50% mortgage. And especially the last couple of years, the senior lenders have kind of pulled back. Before they were at 70% loan to cost, now they're more at the 50 to 60%, which is part of the reason we've seen PACE get adopted more, because there is now a gap in the capital stacks. On PACE financing, a lot of times we can kind of skinny down the equity to maybe 20%, put 30% PACE in there and then still keep the mortgage at 50%. When you take a look at the weighted average cost of capital for traditional capital stack with mezzanine financing in there, it's about 11.5%. PACE brings that down to 9.5%. But not only the fact that it brings down your weighted average cost of capital, you're also getting a longer term loan because PACE financing, the 30% for PACE is a 20 to 30 year loan typically versus a 10 to 20 year loan. So you're getting a longer amortization on that loan, which helps your cash flow, helps your debt service coverage ratios. And on top of it, the PACE lenders are willing to go up to 5 years of capitalized interest or interest only. So you're kind of stepping into those debt service payments, which helps your cash flow early on when you're trying to stabilize a new property. And it also makes the senior lenders happy because they now get that cash flow during the stabilization period. They're not competing with somebody else like a mezzanine financing for those cash flows. So it's a really nice tool overall, even on the structuring end of it. Here is one of the projects we're the most proud of. We love the Panda Biotech story, the GM Delphi facility that was basically repurposed into the hemp processing facility out there. $13 million. They use it for the building envelope, HVAC, plumbing, domestic hot water, lighting systems and controls, utility savings per year, 2.7 million kilowatt hours, 3.8 million gallons of water. So huge reductions over what was being used there at the Delphi when it was a Delphi facility. Now, obviously it was vacant for a while, so it's kind of these are the theoretical savings compared to what the other purpose of the building was. Again, kind of going back a couple years, but just as a reminder, we did close 2 other Wichita County projects earlier on. 2021, we had a rehab of the Maverick on Seymour multifamily apartment complex, $1.3 million for the building envelope, HVAC, domestic hot water and lighting, basically 29% reduction in their utilities. And then we had the Marine Street apartments, again, kind of a similar situation, basically very old apartments that were in need of upgrades, and the property owner utilized PACE financing for those projects. Just a couple other notable ones that we closed in 2024, $27 million here in Dallas County for Hall Arts, new construction. They actually went 10% above code with regards to their energy and water efficiency equipment in there. And that is one nice thing about PACE. The hurdle for a property owner to utilize PACE isn't LEED certified, it's not LEED gold, it's not this very high hurdle that basically a lot of developers will shy away from. It's kind of making an incremental improvement of 5 to 10% on new construction, but when you take a look at the savings, 12% reduction in utility savings, 75% reduction, those add up over time. These buildings are going to be around 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So when you get those incremental savings, they actually really add up quickly. And another one that we're proud of is the Viva Center. This is an old compact computer facility that was in Tomball. It's been around, it was vacant, got purchased. Somebody actually converted it to a data center, or in the process of converting it to a data center. We actually won the Rehabilitation Project of the Year yesterday down in Harris County for this project. So $40 million project, again, nothing sexy. Building envelope, lighting, plumbing, water, conservation, 11% reduction in electricity and 70% reduction in water. So again, nice use of the project, great economic development, great for sustainability.
Competition might be pretty tough in Harris County, I would think.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
There's a lot going on down there. Yes, we were very, very proud to win that yesterday. Actually, a little bit surprised, but again, why are cities and counties implementing PACE? Again, no cost. You're supporting your sustainability. It's an economic tool in the toolbox for your economic development group. Really, like I mentioned, we do a number of programs, and PACE is the one that really is a win-win-win because when you're taking the utility bill savings and you're basically applying those to high efficiency equipment over time where the cash flows are typically neutral or positive, it just gets you over that hurdle of not a lot of upfront costs compared to if you just do these types of improvements without PACE financing, having that long-term amortization. And then again, why are property owners doing this? This has kind of been the area we've had to do the education, immediate cash flow, non-recourse. They don't have to do a personal guarantee on it. No down payments, long-term funding, low cost, helps their debt service cash flow coverage, helps their coverage and their cash flows on their projects. And then you got a couple goofy looking guys. So I kind of went through that pretty quickly, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, and I asked Lee did not, last year we just did the report and submitted that in, but I thought, it's not bad every other year, so to, especially with the Panda project coming online, to have him come in and
Yeah, good
remind us what's going
presentation,
on.
Lee,
Yeah.
that's
No, thank you.
really good.
Sounds like you've done this before.
A few times.
Any questions?
Where do you feel is the most underutilized area? Where's the potential that you're saying the hospitality, that's a big deal? What areas are underutilized in your opinion?
I think the ones where you get the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak, is multifamily and hospitality. When you take a look at a apartment complex, again, you're using a lot of electricity and a lot of water in a small compact area. So if you can get those utilization down in those buildings, in particular, it's a great use of PACE financing. But we are seeing a lot of advantage. We're starting to see more of adoption. Obviously, commercial office took a big hit with COVID, and it really still is now starting to come back. So we haven't seen a whole lot of PACE activity in the office because there's just so much vacancy and there's a lot going on there. I'm surprised at how much industrial we're seeing. There's a big opportunity there. That's the one that just seems to be harder to get out because there's not a lot of avenues to get the word out to those types. There tend to be smaller developers, kind of more one-off projects versus, you talk to one developer for a multifamily, they usually have multiple projects going on, so they can use it in a number of places. Industrial tends to be like single location.
With the onrush of data centers coming online across the state, I know you had that one project which was the old compact. That one seems kind of unique among what most of the data centers are going to look like that are coming online. Do you see they'll use this, or they have plenty of other sources of capital where this won't be a...
We were at the Houston Data Center Conference earlier this week, so yes, we think there's a lot of opportunity to encourage them to go high efficiency on their equipment.
Okay.
And kind of minimize the impact, because obviously the data centers are huge users of energy and water. The only tricky for us with PACE is there is so much interest in data centers, they really don't have, they have people throwing capital out.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So even though PACE is, more advantage in a lot of the types of capital they're putting in their capital stack, a lot of times they're like, well, I can do debt and equity and not have to worry about it. PACE is another sliver in my capital stack I have to manage, so it's really convincing that it's worth the extra effort to put PACE into their capital stack to drive their financials and again, encourage energy and water efficiency.
Okay. Any other questions for Lee?
Doing a data center right here in Wichita County would be a great partner with that Panda project that we got over there.
Would be.
Yeah, I think that'd just be a perfect fit.
Lee, thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for coming up.
Nope, you bet.
Where else? The Wichita County Commissioners Court, can you watch and get educated about capital stacks?
That's right.
Capital stacks.
Item number 2, receive an annual update presentation from Erica Aguirre Vasquez of TCDRS, one of my most anticipated presentations we get every year.
Well, thank you. That's such a lovely introduction. And thank you for having me. And Judge, may I hand out my presentation to your
Please.
court?
Please.
Erica, I want to know if I call
Thank you.
TCDRS and get their voice system, is that your voice?
Yes.
You're famous.
So friendly.
I recognized it and I thought, that's crazy.
Or is it AI, Erica?
There you go.
You know, we're not that savvy yet. It really is us. And thank you for asking. That's actually, those projects are so much fun. We're so fortunate that our communications team loves to work with us. And so my colleagues will do videos, we'll do voices. We actually had our HR director pretend marry our division director and serve in a video for conference. And they were the cutest, but of course we just laughed and laughed because they had to hold hands and walk to the corner.
They weren't at a Coldplay concert.
They were not at a Coldplay concert, no. Oh, that's too funny. Well, thank you so much.
I'm on the same wavelength there.
On the same wavelength. This is also one of my favorite presentations. I bring my regards from Jay Dyer, our governmental relations colleague and deputy director. He's dear friends with Judge Johnson, and he loves this court, so he sends his best. And I have nothing but good news. I wish I could stay all day and talk, but I have really good news, and this is going to be a quick one, but you put some things in place in the past that have served you all very well. So for today's purposes, I thought I'd give you a quick overview, but I thought for your reference, I'd print you a copy as well. And then I'd like to look at your specific numbers for next year, if that's okay. So let's begin. I get to brag about TCDRS a little bit. We are closing in on almost 900 employers. When I was hired 13 years ago, we were just above 500. And now we're closing in on over 900. As I speak to you today, we have 910. The reason it shows 890 is because this is as of December 31 of last year. So TCDRS is happy to welcome districts every month. On average, in a year, we welcome about 20. My excitement today is we now, as of last week, have all 254 counties Motley joined
Oh,
last week.
Wow.
And we are so excited. We're gonna have a big celebration that we can now say we have all the counties in Texas, and Motley's in my region, so I get to welcome them personally.
Wow.
So we're very excited to have them. And we serve over 394 Texans. Most exciting, TCDRS is 90% funded as a system, but if I include our reserves, we're 97% funded with our reserves, and we love that number. And as we build our reserves with our returns that I'll show you in a moment, that just gets stronger and stronger for us. So we set the pace, and we're observing that more of our counties and districts are becoming more and more funded because they're choosing to pay an elected rate, or they're choosing to make an additional contribution and really build those assets a little faster than an average amortized cycle. So it's working out very well. We stand now at 51 billion in assets. We are still governed by the legislature as they created us, but again, similarly to the colleague before me, we do not receive state funds. So we fund ourselves with the performance of our portfolio. Employers fund the match they promise, and members fund their own retirements over the course of their career. That has not changed. And our operating costs changed just a little bit, 0.17. They used to be 0.18, they're now 0.17 of all of our assets. And of course, our board is appointed by the governor, approved by the state senate, and they are actual members and retirees of our system, and they serve as our board members. This slide, I didn't show last year, it's a newer slide, but I really like to talk about it. I'm often asked as I travel where TCDRS stands as a plan, and we're a hybrid. We are both a defined benefit and a defined contribution. So we get to have the confidence that the employee's benefit is based on their account balance that they've accumulated over their career and the match that's being promised to them. In our system as a pension, their check is for life, and the investment risk is shared. And here's how. The member doesn't get to choose whether they participate. They must participate as a condition of employment. They also don't get to choose how their money is invested. That's up to TCDRS. We manage the $51 billion portfolio for them. This county, the court specifically, decides the benefits you can afford. And you get to make those changes annually based on this workforce need and your specific budget. So between the member participating and funding their own portion, between TCDRS taking the load of managing the $51 billion portfolio as it grows annually, and between the employers who set the benefits they can afford and adjust them accordingly on an annual basis, we share the risk of this plan. The other three factors that I communicate the most when I say that we are a hybrid plan of both defined benefit and defined contribution are these three factors you see on the screen. And I'm most excited to say that we stay out of the conversation that other pension systems unfortunately fall under, which are that they're not very well funded or that they're in danger of sorts. And that's because we require members to participate, so they're saving for their retirement over the course of their career. This court is paying the required rate % of payroll to fund the promised benefits, so you're responsibly funded. And the local control sits between this court and the decisions you make annually. You're not responsible for the appraisal districts that I take care of or the other districts in your own county. They're responsible for their own match, and they're responsible for their own plan of assets. You only worry about Wichita County. The one-time benefits are pooled are for investment purposes only. If I looked at an average profile, your employees are very young at 43 with about 10 years of service on average, and your retirees are extremely young. They're only 60, and I say that because people are working much longer. So you have very young retirees, and they've put in about 17 years of service when they're ready to retire, and their average benefit, a little over $23,000. I do emphasize average because remember, it's based on their own deposits, the length of their career, and their accounts are earning 7% compound interest. And then it's also determined by the match that they're earning. So that's just if we just get a cumulative average, we're looking at a little over $23,000. I always like to show this court where the money went when we pay it out. And I looked at all the zip codes in Wichita County. So these are retirees of all the districts, the appraisal district in the county that participated in TCDRS, but they have a Wichita zip code. They're retirees that live in your neighborhoods. And we paid out 10 million plus. And when we study what happens to these retirees, we perform an economic impact study every 4 years. And 96% of those people are staying in their own neighborhoods. They like where they live. And they want to retire there because they know it and they're familiar and that's where their families are. So when we look at that statistic, that stands true at 96% not leaving. 10.3 million went right back to your local communities when it was paid out just last year alone. Your specific level of benefits are that employees are saving 7% of their own income, and that's all income. So we get often asked if they have a bonus check or if they work overtime. Yes, 7% of that too. That's considered income. It shows up on their W-2. So 7% of any earned income in a given year goes into their own TCDRS account and only their own. No other money is shared. It's earning 7% compound interest by state statute. And if they hit the 3 rules on the screen, they only need 1, but if they hit 1 of 3, they earn that 200% match that this court is funding over the course of their career. So while not having to hit the trifecta, they just need 1, but they must be age 60 with at least 8 years of service. That service, it was asked of me last year in this court, that service can be TRS, TMRS, ERS time. It can also be other counties and districts. So if you have an employee who you hire today and they have 3 years from Dallas County, well, they only need to put in 5 here. 3 plus 5 is 8. They're vested here. So the time is shared. Money is not shared. We never combine money, but the time is recognizable. So that's a real nice benefit in our system in that people can go from county to county or even a proportionate system and their time is counted. If they hit the rule of 75, meaning their age plus their years of service, congratulations to them. And finally, 20 years. I love that rule. You can hire a 30-year-old and they're eligible at 50, or a 20-year-old and they're eligible at 40. Now they're eligible, that may not be affordable to retire because they're very young and their life expectancy is so long that we have to pay them for life, and so we can only pay them so much for that life expectancy. But to have the bragging rights of being eligible is a retention tool that's built into your benefits here. You can acquire and highlight and retain and attract great employees because after 20 years you have a lifetime benefit. That's a huge retention tool. And I'm excited to also say that we hear when we travel that more emergency services districts and appraisal districts and hospital districts, they're telling us that upon interview, when they say, what questions might you have for us as the entity? The first questions are now, do you offer TCDRS? And because they're getting it where they're coming from, and they want that time to be shared, and they also love that a lifetime benefit is there as a possibility. So we've watched a huge spike in emergency services districts join us in the last decade. Particularly Harris County, they have quite a bit out there. This court also offers partial lump sum, so as you know, you just added that. When a member retires, they can take out a lump sum of their own money, up to 100% of it if they'd like, and they retire off the difference. And I assured this court last year that when a member chooses that, to look into that as an option, it is our responsibility to counsel them. And we show them a side-by-side estimate, and we say, if you should retire without touching any money, this is what you'll get for the rest of your life. And if you take out the lump sum that you're requesting, this is what your benefit will be. And when we show them that, they responsibly can decide, is this what I really want to do? Is that trip to Hawaii as important because it's going to shrink my benefit? And they get to decide, but just like this court has decided, that's their choice. They get to make that choice. If they need it for medical purposes, it's available to them. So that was added last year. And you also offer group term life, which is a payment of 1 times a member's annual salary to their beneficiary if they should pass away while they were actively employed with Wichita County. And that's in addition to the survivor benefit that's paid as well. So that's offered. Actually, let me remind you, if this court ever would like to make any benefit changes, your variance for the employee deposit rate is from 7 to 4%. That can change in any year. We don't offer tiers, so if you change it, everybody participates at the same level. The variance for the match can go as high as 250, as low as 100. That can always be changed. If you'd like to look at that, you let me know and I'd be happy to provide you the data. The vesting can go from the 8 years to 5, but that is non-rescindable. Should you go down to 5, it's permanent. And then the rule of, actually no, that's it, 75 and 20 are the lowest, so those are the only changes. Partial lump sum's also a permanent decision. But group term life is not. That's not retirement. That's an optional life insurance and can be removed anytime. The thing you can also add for group term life is you can add retirees. And if you do, it's a $5,000 check to their beneficiaries upon their passing. So you can add retirees. I also like to highlight replacement ratios for every one of my county and districts that I serve. Wichita County is replacing 85% of a member's salary in retirement if they give you a full career at 30 years. So that's really reflective of the person who's really worked here over the long haul is going to get so much of their salary replaced. I mentioned earlier that we're not funded by Texas, we fund ourselves. And this is a small image of what that looks like. 74 cents of every dollar paid to a retiree comes from the performance of our investment portfolio. 15 cents comes from the match. That's what Wichita County is funding. And 11 cents comes from their own pockets. So as we share the risk, we also share the funding. Our portfolio is diverse across and within asset classes. And on our website, this is public information to anybody who's curious. If you visit Real Assets, if you visit our hedge funds, credit, you can simply click on that and it will drop down who our current managers are, who they were, and the performance year to date of any one of our asset classes. We've outpaced our benchmarks over all periods. You'll notice I took you back 30 years for this particular presentation. Our goal is 7.5%. We know that we're not going to always hit 7.5. We're actually proud to do much better over time. We closed the year last year at 10.3 and the year before at 11.1. But in true form, as a portfolio performs, we were negative 5.8 the year before that, because that's what happens. We don't always hit our 7.5. We hit it over time, over the long haul, and while we don't chase annual returns, we have time with members working on average 17 to 20 years and being retired on average 14 to 17 years. Time is on our side to allow that portfolio to perform as we need it to for our members to pay them in retirement. And our performance shows that with that gray bandwidth you see on the screen is that risk tolerance. That's how we want it to perform. We don't always want to hit 7.5. While that's the goal, we'd like to do better. So if it stays within that risk tolerance, it's performing as it's designed to. And when we exceed our 7.5, the very first thing we do is pass off those gains to our employers. And we take some of that after we've passed gains to you, and we put it away in our reserves, which when you count our reserves makes us 97% funded. Reserves saved us after the 2008 crisis. We recovered in 4 quick years. And even during COVID, when markets were a little bit volatile, didn't bother us because we had our reserves to lean on. Great news, your costs went down again. Our investment return gain served you well, so we passed off that gain. So take down 0.14% of your cost. You have an elected rate in place because you're choosing to pay a little more than what's owed. That's really serving you well. Your demographic changes told me when I did a little study on you that when members left, when they didn't no longer stayed employed here, they did pull out their own money. So the match that was once promised to them stays with the Wichita County because it's not paid if they pull out their money. It's only paid in retirement. So that stays in the Wichita County asset, and that lowered your cost as well. So from 11.74, your cost went down to 11.08. But this court pays 14% of an elected rate. You're electing to pay 14, and now you only owe us 11.08. What that means is your gap between what you owe and pay has grown. So your liabilities are going to go down even faster, your assets even higher, which brings you to 90.4% funded.
Which is better than we've ever been, right?
Highest you've ever been. Yes, I told you this was going to be my favorite presentation. Yes, it's really working for you, Commissioner, that elected rate. And then it's simultaneously being paired with some gains in the market, so you couldn't be better than that. And of course, participation is all permanent employees. I always remind my decision makers, we get asked this a lot, can we hire someone for a brief period of time and do they have to participate? If they have an end date, no, they don't participate, they're just temporary. And temporary is what you set. If the temporary is 15 months, and that's temporary to you, and there's an end date, that's your call. But it just has to be classified as temporary with an end date. If they're permanent, no end date, then they must participate, even if they're only part-time or half-time or quarter-time. But they work every Saturday and there's no end date, and they must participate because that's a permanent employee. And of course, rehiring employees is a very popular topic because people often want to know, well, if I've separated employment, can I ever return back? Absolutely. If Wichita County will hire you, you certainly can. But if you've withdrawn your funds, You have to wait 1 full calendar month before you can seek reemployment. If they've withdrawn their funds, we have to abide by IRS regulation. We are a tax-deferred qualified plan, and return to work rules are very stringent with the IRS. They don't want people abusing our plan as a tax-deferred plan. So if they've separated employment and pulled their money, 1 full calendar month must pass before they can come back and say, what did I do? Can I have my job back? They have to wait that time period. Same thing for a retiree. If I retire in December, all of January must pass, and I can come back in February and say, you know, retirement, I'm awfully bored. Is there anything here I can apply for? And I can apply again. I keep my retirement. It never gets interrupted. I start a new job with Wichita County, and one day I'll retire for a second time. So that is an option if you choose to hire them back. Certainly your choice. And the timeline never changes. We like to keep it consistent. We take a snapshot every December 31. We study plans through March, and we present you with data every April. I like to be invited around summertime because you've had a chance to look at things, and then you have until December to tell me if you'd like to leave things alone or make any changes. Specifically for this court, I've included a copy of your plan assessment, and that's because I'd like to show you what that elected rate stands at, 14%. And the only change that I would ask is, would you like to stay at that elected rate, or are there talks of maybe changing that? If there are, I would just need to know by December, or any changes actually, but that was one that I was gonna bring to your attention in my visit today. Just curious if you wanted to keep that, or maybe make those changes.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say, I actually looked pretty hard at this, of potentially proposing moving down to an elected rate of 13 or 13.5%. Can you do 0.5% increments? or
You
does
can
it have
pay
to be-
any percent.
Okay.
You sure
Um,
can.
And looking at that because of where we are and continue to do well, that after considering it for a while, it was, now I've forgotten the number. Matt, do you know off the top of your head what a 1% difference would be in retirement?
Don't.
Okay, that's fine. We are at a point where I think that the elected rate, being what it is doing what we wanted it to do. And so I was not going to propose that, but I do think that probably after this year, based on if the continued returns end up being what they are, we'll probably want to look hard at potentially lowering that next year or in the future. But y'all may feel differently and want to go ahead and talk through what that would look like if we were to do it sooner.
We've not been on that rate for just last year, didn't we?
2 years.
Like that, 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
But-
You put it in place in 2024, sir.
But since I've been on the court, Judge, I know that we've been as low as in the higher 70s, you know, and, so we've made tremendous progress
Yeah,
in covering the,
which was the intent.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if we have a bad fiscal year, we don't have to pay out the full funding.
You make an excellent point, Commissioner. When I've observed counties benefit the most from an elected rate, it's when they come upon a tough budget year. The first people they can look at is us and say, Erica, we're gonna lower it 3 basis points, and they have that cash savings immediately. And so I've observed that people lower it just because it's doing what we need, and we can, or they wait until they need to. Either way, it's completely in your hands, and I love that you're thinking about it that way, Judge, because just to look at the numbers reminds you of that flexibility that you have, and I think it's healthy to do so. So any point in time, this court can make that call, as long as it's before the 15th of that calendar year, then we would make the change January 1 of the subsequent year.
And I will get those numbers that I ran, get it, coordinate, make sure my math was right with Matt, and just let y'all know what that was. But looking at it didn't seem to be enough of a worthwhile one with this kind of budget year, but we needed it. Because to your point, I kind of viewed it the same way, as it is a nice place to look quickly that's not gonna actually directly affect operations and salaries, and to find that money.
And to immediately have that cash flow for other things.
Yeah.
As long as it's above the required rate, it can be any percentage and any number.
Any questions for Erica?
Thank you again.
Thank you
Good
for having me.
report.
Like your presentation.
I appreciate you. Thank you, and I'm
Nice
so
to have
excited
you.
that Motley joined. And so you're the
Oh,
first
dude.
court I get to tell publicly. We have all of them. So thank you. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm happy to answer them at any time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I know Leah and Erica both, when y'all finish, we will not be offended if you need to leave and go do other things. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, at this time, item number 3 is received presentation by Nicole Wardlow of Concentra on workers' compensation injuries, drug testing, and related services. Ms. Wardlow is already at the microphone. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Nicole Wardlow. I'm Director of Sales for Concentra. I live in DFW, and we just opened our center in Wichita Falls last week. So here to make a little introduction about Concentra for you guys. This is going to be a little bit of a presentation, but I'm going to do more talking. And then if you guys have questions along the way, I'm more of an interactive presenter, so please ask questions, okay?
Just open in Wichita Falls, where at?
Just over off of Jacksboro Highway. So we have multiple locations throughout, all of Texas and throughout the United States, but we just acquired the Nova Medical Center. So exactly,
okay.
yeah. So new to Wichita Falls, but not a new company or new occupational health center. So that's why I said, ask questions along the way, but definitely want to tell you a little bit about Concentra as a whole. But we just transitioned the Nova Center last week to a Concentra Center.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little bit of back history on Concentra, tell you a little bit about what we do. So we have just about over 45 years of occupational health experience. Our first center was in Amarillo, Texas, and then our second one was Garland, Texas. So we treat 1 in 5 work-related injuries nationwide. You can kind of see our map here of where we're at, growing and expanding and doing acquisitions. We just finished our Nova acquisition, like I said, last week. West Texas, which I laughed with the group when I met them before because Wichita Falls, we just could not decide. Was that going to be West Texas or was that going to be DFW? But we transitioned it with West Texas, okay? So Wichita Falls transitioned last week with our West Texas group, and that was the last of the 67 Nova clinics to transition last week. So we focus on return to work and active treatment plans. All of our providers are focused on workers' comp. They are all work comp providers. And that is what we treat, all workers' comp, and then we do employer services as well. So I'll get more into that later. So we actually have 626 locations now, including Wichita Falls. And then we also offer on-site clinics as well at different, either municipalities, ISDs, or different corporate companies. So the main thing we focus on is treating workers' comp patients. So injury care is what we call that. So we have in-house specialty care. So what that means is at most of our clinics, we treat the patient from start to finish. So from the initial injury, recheck visits, and then physical therapy. So we have physical therapy on site as well. And then all of our clinics have digital x-ray, and we do offer telemedicine. So I'll get a little bit more into telemedicine. That's our own telemedicine platform that's out of our corporate office in Addison, Texas. So that operates 24/7 with our own Concentra telemedicine doctors. It's just through our own telemedicine platform, but that is, I can see eyebrows raised. That's a unique platform that we rolled out during COVID, but certainly all of the work comp payers and everything like that accept it. The reason it's unique is because during COVID, I think we all got a bit creative on how we work through Zoom, through Teams, and things like that. So we can treat the patient through initial injury, and we can actually release the patient now in Texas as well through telemedicine. So occupational health services that we provide, we're DOT certified, so we can do all of DOT services. So we can do standard physicals, DOT physicals, fit for duty exams, respirator physicals, drug and alcohol screenings. All of our drug screen bays and all of our staff are DOT certified. So we run every drug screen, even if it's not a DOT drug screen, as a DOT drug screen. Or not as a DOT drug screen, but as that process as a DOT. Yes, exactly. We can do job site analysis. So we can go on site, we can run a job site analysis, things like that. Ergonomic assessment, and then of course, like I said before, we have on-site programs as well. So on-site clinics.
So the teledoc,
Mm,
or, we had somebody minor injury.
sure,
We could send them to the teledoc
that's right.
option as opposed to sending them away for a couple of hours with somebody to go with them.
That's correct. Yeah, you've got the right idea there, so that's exactly what I say. So, I use it as a couple of examples. So one, industrial companies, because for example, our Wichita Falls Clinic is only open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Right.
We have certain centers that might have more extended hours, but, if an industrial company has like I know, but
No,
yeah, so we have certain companies that maybe run a third shift,
Yeah.
or my husband's a coach, right? We know teachers are busy, right? So maybe they can't get away from work, or like you said, you don't want to send them away from work. If you have a location or a spot where they can see a telemedicine, our telemedicine provider, or even if they go home, if you trust them to go home, they can just log into our telemedicine platform. We either have a link they can use or a QR code they can use. They're triaged in with an MA. The MA sees them. Then they're triaged in with our telemedicine provider. Those notes are done, and then those reports go back to the same portal that I'll get into that the team has access to, and all the reports are pushed to the portal just like the in-office visit reports, the activity status, the follow-up visit reports, the everything like that. And actually, the case durations prove to be a little bit less because they're less of
Incentive?
severe injury, right?
Right.
So you wouldn't want, obviously, like you said, you wouldn't want maybe an open wound, anything with stitches, something
No,
like that.
no.
It's
We
more of
have
a reassurance.
We have a lot of trip and fall injuries in the jail particularly. And it
Exactly.
happens at 3 o'clock in the morning.
That, exactly.
So this would be a perfect use instead of sending them to the emergency room at 3 o'clock in the morning.
100%. So you're saving there. When you get that call, I always ask, who are they reporting the injury to? Somebody's on call, right? Or somebody's there.
Yeah, there's
Who are they
full staff.
reporting the injury to? We have a lot of marketing collateral, so I say, okay, put this QR code up, give them this number, give this link, and then have them go to a space, a room, a quiet room, log on to telemedicine. There's two things, right? So the doctor might say, you're completely fine, everything's fine. Everything that happens at 2 in the morning feels way worse than what happens at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that doctor will say everything's fine. That's true, right? Yeah. So the doctor's gonna be, everything's fine, you're good. You can follow up with us on telemed, or you need to go to the emergency room, let's hope not, right? Or you can go be seen at the center tomorrow.
Pay
For an
no
X-ray.
attention to that exposed bone.
No.
But we do have an awful lot of trip, fall type injuries and things like that that aren't necessarily an emergency,
Right.
but.
100%, and that's what a lot of times what I tell people, decision makers and things like that, what it's for, especially that after hours. When I get the question, do you guys have after hours? I always say, well, what are we talking about here? What are we looking for? Because no, we don't have after hours, but we have telemedicine. And so that a lot of times is what it's used for,
Yeah.
right? Because the provider can evaluate and treat based off of that. And then I will tell you this too, so even if it's between clinic hours and the patient is seen on telemedicine and the doctor says, you know what, I don't feel great about this in doctor's terms, why don't you go ahead and go straight to the clinic?
Yeah.
You guys, you would only be billed for one visit if they went to the Concentra clinic.
Okay.
We wouldn't bill for both visits, it would just be one initial visit.
Okay.
Y'all
As
use
long
it,
as they could wait the 7 hours
you know,
when the Concentra Clinic opened.
No, she was talking
If
business.
they happen during the day.
Same day,
Okay.
yeah.
yeah.
Y'all use a lot of PAs.
Like
Well,
she did
A
tell
jailer
me.
does a
practitioners and all,
telemedicine visit on Saturday
Which is a
afternoon.
great resource.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
try to use doctors, but we
Yeah.
do have a nurse practitioner here in
Yeah.
Wichita Falls because that's who is with Nova. But
Probably
yeah,
more,
we do.
Probably one of the best things that's happened in the medical industry.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is.
No, go ahead and go ahead and do
I
it.
can see it's being
They
a
really
pretty
take
good
it to slack.
benefit if we take advantage of it.
Well, this may be my lack of imagination. What type of incident? I mean, I just have always sort of questioned telemedicine because if it's bad enough for me to call a doctor, they probably need to actually look at it.
Well, that's in comparison though, because some things to me don't really have to go to the doctor. If you get bit by a snake, you don't have to. But some
This is
people
somebody got
might
bit
think
by a
that's big
rattlesnake and just tucked it out, yeah.
It's a snake, a rattlesnake.
Okay,
So
well,
it all
so-
depends. It all
Wait,
depends
he
on the
did or
relative.
did not go?
He did not go seek medical attention.
For a while.
But it was just a little one, yeah, it was just.
That's not me. We are not the same person, so.
That you know what? Just keep going.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna give you the doctor's information. Yeah. So, I think all patients for workers' comp are important, right? But they do often just want to be seen and have the reassurance. So the slip and falls,
Okay.
the strains and sprains, the bloodborne pathogens. There's a protocol for bloodborne pathogens too. So dog bites, needle sticks. There's different things like that can be treated on telemedicine as well. That don't have to be seen at the clinic. Protocol and things like that are really good for telemedicine. So there are a variation of things
So
that
the
can be
things that
seen.
happen in the jail.
Yes. So I say a lot of times, like with, schools, municipalities, the counties, the jails, but it's all about how you roll it out and how you communicate it.
Yeah.
And that's the best utilization that I see. We do have, I do have the ability to connect you with, there's a means, Deanna Adams, that has telemedicine, to have further conversations about what that looks like as well, because I've connected plenty of people with her to have a further conversation about what that looks like as well. But typically when I have these conversations with ISDs or cities or municipalities, that's typically a good next step to kind of say, tell me what that looks like from your end. For you guys, what Deanna would say, tell me a little bit more about the utilization that you guys see.
Tanya looks like she wants to ask something.
And with the bloodborne pathogens, that comes up a lot because they'll get, they'll spit in their eye at the jail. They wanna go immediately to the doctor. Well, the doctors ask them to wait because you blood test them right then, it doesn't come through, but they may want the reassurance to talk to somebody.
Yep.
And then they're already entered as a patient, so then it's just the follow-up for when they do the blood test.
Yes.
So it would say, we have a lot that go to the ER because during their shift, they were spit on. And they don't have to go to the ER right then. And so that's just, and I know they're concerned, but that may be one of the instances where.
See, it's my lack of imagination.
There you go, I'm helping you.
Good, yeah.
Workers' comp is a little bit of a different thing, so that versus, and like a needle stick, anything, open, what's the source, what's going on, and having the conversation too, so, and I don't know that I provided you guys with the telemedicine information yet, we only had a brief conversation the first time, so. But I can still do that. I knew that was gonna be I knew we were gonna have an interactive conversation, so. We could
You didn't really realize what you were walking in.
No, it's okay. I've done lots of presentations. This is my first
This
one
is a
before
unique
court,
group.
so
No,
that's
yeah.
okay.
I can see the value in that.
Yes,
Where it
yes.
can really,
Yeah.
really save us a lot of time, energy, and cash. So,
Well, then you're gonna like where we're going with, in a slide in a second with our outcomes report. Because eventually we're gonna talk about how we generate reports that will show you our case durations and our average cost case. So if you wanna talk about cost savings, we can eventually kind of show you what that looks like. Yeah. So, did we,
I think you're good.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Did we? Oh, no, I skipped that. Sorry, let me go to complimentary transportation for a second, because I don't know that I touched on this with the team when I met them as well. So we do offer complimentary transportation for injuries. That is from the initial injury through the end of the injury. That includes rechecks and PT. We don't bill the payer, we don't bill you guys. That's within 15 miles of the clinic. So when you authorize for the visit online, you can schedule transportation or you can call the clinic and say, hey, the patient needs a ride. There's a few reasons we do that. One, we are really wanting the patient to show up for their visit so that we can help them get to their visit, help the case have that continuum of care. And then 2, we know that the patient isn't maybe always gonna have the ride, depending on the injury. Some employers that I work with will have a supervisor bring them if they're injured. Obviously, maybe they don't need to drive if they have a head injury or something. So we offer transportation. It's all tracked through Lyft. Whatever the pickup spot is, it's tracked to the clinic, and then the return is tracked back. Now, if they are at home and they have a recheck visit, we could pick them up from their home as long as it's within 15 miles. So that's a courtesy of Concentra to make sure that we are following through with the case, to make sure that we can see them and get them back. That's just a little bit more about what I was talking about with our centers. So standard centers, mostly all of the Concentra centers look the same. Some of our acquisition centers might look like what the center looked like before, but we try to transition them all to look like a Concentra center. They all have digital x-ray, drug screen base, things like that. Walk-in based center, but all recheck appointments and things like that will be scheduled. So these are some of the things that we focus on just from a perspective for what we know would be important to you guys. So back when I started at Concentra back in 2011, we ran I didn't do it, but Concentra ran a third-party survey to see what was most important to companies that we worked with. It's a similar company that like a Chick-fil-A or Starbucks used. So we know that employer engagement, patient engagement, clear communication, and quality medical outcomes is the most important things that you guys are looking for. And then the workforce health is something that was added. That's our extra services, like our on-site job assessments and things like that. So those are the 5 keys that we really focus on: a welcoming facility, clear communication with, we've really updated our portal. Believe it or not, when I first started in 2011, we were still faxing things, but that probably doesn't surprise you guys. So faxing reports and things like that. So our online, hey, I know, right? I mean, there's, email, faxes, things like that. Quality medical outcomes. So all of our providers are work comp providers. We do have medical oversight in all of our clinics that have MDs and DOs, and most of our centers have, all of our centers have center medical directors that are MDs and DOs. Now, you were saying this earlier, that we do have nurse practitioners and PAs that see patients as well. So for example, Wichita Falls does have the nurse practitioner, Misty, that sees patients. She worked there with Nova, so she will stay there, and in that case, she wouldn't be the center medical director, she would be the clinic manager. But Dr. Benedict is our regional medical director, and he would be oversight over her and very involved with what is going on medically speaking, right? And just seeing her. But I know that they've used Misty before, and she's really good too.
So if someone working for us had some kind of an occupational injury and it turned out to be a long-term deal, do you hand them over to the regular physician after the initial, how does that work? How does the mechanics of that work?
Typically, the way that, this is how I explain it. So we have our clinic team, which we call our clinic leadership team. So that would be our clinic medical director or clinic manager, Misty. Then we have our center operations director, that's like our clinic manager. And then our clinic therapy director, our PT. So all of our clinics have our director leadership team. That would be me, just the salesperson. The director of operations, director of medical, Dr. Benedict, and then director of clinical services, which is Scott Siebold, the PT. So it flows up really nicely. I know we're talking about a company that seems really big and things like that, but the flow of communication is very direct up to the director team. So in that case, if when I'm working with somebody, typically if they were to come to me and say, well, look, this case seems like it's been going on 3, 4, 5 weeks, can we look at it? What I typically do is go to Dr. Benedict and say, hey, can we do a case review? And we'll just pull the patient info. Dr. Benedict will do a case review. We can do 2 or 3 case reviews, right? And then he'll sit down with Misty, he'll look at the case, and we'll look at what's going on. Same thing for physical therapy. And then Scott will look at that. And it's part of our coaching and our effort. clinically and medically speaking, to look at cases and do case reviews.
Okay.
So
No, we've
there is
experienced
a
some of that
plan
in
in
the past.
place that, yeah.
Always,
yeah,
and
yeah.
certainly with acquisitions, this is not to speak about Nova in any sort of way. It's just a way of the way that Concentra does things. So I've worked in the DFW market a long time. I started in 2011 as the account executive and then left for a little bit, came back as the director of sales. So I've worked with that team a really long time. And it's just a really strong flow of communication. If I were to go there in DFW and say, hey, Dr. Deepa, let's look at this together. So-and-so's frustrated with this case, because it just ensures that there's two sets of eyes looking at it.
So we can request the case review.
Always, please. Most of the time, in my experience, what I see when somebody's frustrated is when there's no communication.
You bet.
When the case just goes and goes and goes, and I don't hear about it, or nobody says anything. The best thing is if somebody says something, or even just sends an email that says, can we look at this? Can you guys come over? Can we pull it? When I get to the outcomes report, yeah, I think it's that one. When we pull those, you'll be able to see your average case duration, either every quarter or every year. We also run our outcomes report by market and by clinic. We don't pull out outliers. If there's a long case, a big case, we don't pull anything out. But if I was to run it for Wichita County for Q1 or Q2 or for 2024, let's say, and there's a case in there that's pulled out, we can run the data and Dr. Benedict can say patient XYZ ran for 32 days or 625 days because of this, because he had a spine injury and he went to surgery and this is why. Those are the types of things we look at and the types of things we do.
One of the reasons I mentioned that, it seems like that even with all this wonderful communication that we have now, there's just a lot of times if you got a regular doctor and maybe a specialist or two, they don't really communicate very well. And you wind up, one of them doesn't really know what you're doing over here, and that was really my question. Like if somebody gets hurt, and there is a point though that you would review that, and that was really what I was talking about. We've got, and I think we're getting better. I can kind of see it in my own situation, but there was a while there where one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing, and that can be a problem.
So we're not gonna get in a situation where somebody has a strain and we're going through 4 different rounds of physical therapy and no communication.
Right, so typically what I see happen, so at Concentra, it's not gonna happen right off the bat in Wichita Falls because we have to build in our specialist program.
Yeah.
But we have, it was on the last slide, we have specialists that come into our clinics in DFW and West Texas. That helps with the communication. So if I have Dr. Antonetti, who's a hand specialist, coming into our Dallas clinic or whatever, that is that communication piece. So he's coming in every Monday, he sees the patients, and they're communicating with the provider. Those reports go into the Concentra portal. They're using our x-ray, they're talking to our doctor, that sort of thing. So we have a whole network of specialists. They have their own offices outside of our clinics, but they see patients in our clinic. Because we just had this transition last week, we don't have that specialist network yet in Wichita Falls, but I already talked with the team about partnering as close as we can with someone here to build that relationship, but we are looking to build and get a specialist here, just like we're looking to do that in some of our newer clinics that we acquired because of that.
Well, you're always concerned about going for maybe an injury, kind of an emergency room or clinic deal, and wind up taking something that your cardiologist didn't really want you to have. Those are the things that really kind of concern me, and we went through a little time where we didn't do very good in that. But I think we are getting better though.
And what we talked to Nicole about, we want to prevent going to their clinic for 4, 5, 6 months for an injury before we go see an orthopedic and find out that somebody needs shoulder surgery. I mean, why didn't we do that 3 months ago? And so that's what we want to see is if they're not getting better in a few visits,
You move
we
on.
want to refer it out. We wanna take care of it and not go through that 6 months before we ever see a specialist.
Yeah.
And so,
Part of that issue too is access to like MRIs and other scans of sort. For some reason, we're always sending them to
Dallas.
DFW or something like that for it. And she's gonna work with us to use local providers. So that was one of the main issues with NOVA before, was we were sending people 2-3 hours away for something that we should be able to do.
Something we have the facilities locally to take care of.
Right.
And I already talked to the team about that, is using, one, staying local, and then two, we have a whole payer team that works with all the national work comp payers. So there's no reason that we can't find and use local resources. So one, we have a referral team. They should be able to find somebody here to send an MRI to. I don't want to see a patient driving to DFW for an MRI. And then two, until we can get a specialist to come to our office, like we have at DFW or in Amarillo or Lubbock, we just need to find a specialist we can send to here. There are plenty of specialists here. We're not talking about,
Yeah,
Well,
we're on the middle of nowhere.
you know, Altus, Oklahoma, or whatever example we used last time I was here, where there's not a lot going on. It was a random example, but there's a reason I used it. So, yeah. But that, so those are some of the things that we utilize in the other markets that we'll look to implement once we get through the transition period.
It was not good.
Um,
It was not good.
The other little bit of difference you'll see, and so you see the Concentra Advanced Specialist. That's our ortho program that we have, where we don't have it yet in Wichita Falls. It's ortho, spine, podiatry, things like that. But we'll look to find one here in Wichita Falls, and I'll keep the team posted on that. I've already talked to the team, the referral team, about MRIs, imaging, and the ortho that we'll try to find here to work with. I want you guys just to make a note, and we've talked about telemedicine. I want you guys to make a note about the FRESH model. I think you guys will see a big difference on that in our notes as well. So I know we've all been to the doctor where you've been asked, what is your pain? On a scale of
Commissioner
1 to 10.
Concannon's is always 1.
Mine's always a 10. We're not the same either. Okay, I'm always a 10. I'm pretty dramatic. All right, so.
3 or 4.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, so you feel something then. Okay. So
He has feelings, we found.
that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
When you pick that up off my foot, yeah, it's a blood. Yeah.
So what we really have steered away from is using that pain scale, especially for workers' comp, because then you're really focused on the pain, right? Every time you come in, you just want to tell the doctor, like, I'm still an 8, I'm still an 8. So you'll see a lot of functional questions being asked from the provider, and especially in PT. How is your function now? Where is your function? So in the medical notes, you shouldn't see a lot of 1 to 10. They're still a 10, they're an 8, they're a 9, because my pain is different than his pain.
I hate that pain scale.
It doesn't make any sense.
Very outdated, very outdated. So the FRESH model is something I really enjoy talking about. I actually really like when our PTs talk about it, the compassionate, really functional people at Concentra. But you will see a really big difference in that, I think, because it really changes the mindset of the patient. So last time you were at this visit, you were able to do this. Where are you at now? What were you able to do at home? What were you able to do at work? How did you feel? That's the focus with the FRESH model. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings with my comment.
He
You didn't have them.
I don't really
You just said he had feelings, so we
I know, that's why I said that.
There's not a lot of danger.
All right, and I'm almost done. So the other thing we do is we track Net Promoter Scores. All of our clinics do this, so it's like our customer survey that the patients get when they check out and they leave the clinic. They can rate us on a scale of 1 to 10. It can hurt. It's a variance, right? So if they give us a 0, it's a 0. They give us a 10, it's great. And the clinics are incentivized and scored off of these, and these go out monthly. So all of the clinics are kind of given a rate off of this, and really motivized and incentivized off of this. So we really go off our Orange Book theory. Off of our focus is the selfless heart and the tireless resolve, and our healing focus. So the Net Promoter Score is something we've been doing for a really long time. So the customer service aspect is really important to us. So you'll see that. Hopefully you guys are never a patient, but if you are, that is something that you will see. We've talked about all of this.
Can you go back for a second?
Yes. Yes.
Just 5% of Concentra patients are recommended for off-duty after injury, compared to a 30% industry average. Can
See-
you break down what that means?
Yes, I will. So you'll see that it's 5% or less. You'll kind of see that once we can dive into the outcomes report. I can show that or send that to you from either pulling like our DFW market report. We don't obviously have one for Wichita Falls, or West Texas. Typically what I see, the last time I pulled it for DFW for Q1, I think I pulled it for Q2 recently. It is less than 5%. So when we pull the outcomes report, it'll tell us based off closed cases and how many cases we treated, how many patients were taken off work.
When their very first time when they come in.
So let's say for Q1, if I pulled a DFW market outcomes report, if we treated 15,000 cases and 14,000 of those were closed, how many cases were taken off work?
Off work.
Or, I mean, how many patients were taken off work?
Period for a day for.
Period.
Okay.
Yeah. And so typically it's less than 5%, and you'll see that. And so if I pull it for one client, it's very minimal. The off work is very minimal. You have to see, typically it would be if they had surgery, and a pretty big surgery.
Okay.
Typically back related, right? Maybe not, because you could put them on restrictions if you guys allow restrictions, right? So they could push papers if their leg is propped up, or you know what I mean? So I can email that
It's,
over.
ERs primarily, they almost tell everybody you get off for 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just almost automatic.
Standard.
So,
Real generic doctor's note says you may return in
yeah,
4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I can
off
go
work
for a
is
headache.
very rare.
3 days.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
try. I
that's
can
right.
pull one for you. I can either pull it by one of our clinics or for one of our
No,
markets.
you answered my question. I wasn't sure what off-duty.
Sorry, I
activity
misunderstood it,
meant.
I
No,
think,
you're
at
good.
first, but,
good.
yeah. In network with all majors workers, and you guys are already set up, so we're good there. Any other questions on this slide? I think we talked about. And then the online portal, of course, so you have the ability to online authorize, view reports, pay bills online, schedule transportation, and then ask questions and use the customer service support as well, which they're all set up on the portal as well. And then telemedicine, you can authorize for telemedicine visits on the portal as well, and or use the QR code. That's it.
Okay.
One question, you said you did workplace assessments,
Uh-huh.
so what would that entail?
So, a couple different things. One, we've done it where like a physical therapist that is ADAP trained can come out and do job site assessments, like depending on the job description. And then they can build out what we call HPEs, which is a human performance exam, which would be, so like if you're gonna do a pre-hire physical, and you could use that for your pre-hire physical, and it would be like the push, pull, lift test type thing.
Yep.
And you can use that to qualify or disqualify a candidate for pre-hire.
Okay,
You could use it as a return to work, like a fit for duty exam. Use that HPE for a fit for duty return to work exam as well. So job site assessment, ergonomic assessments as well with the
Okay.
physical therapists who are ADAP trained as well.
that's kind of what I was wondering.
Mm-hmm.
What,
Yeah.
if you look at a work site and see something that
Yes.
might be or conducive for injuries, that you could give us some
Absolutely.
recommendations for.
That's what our ADAP trained physical therapists do. And either you can use that as a functional assessment or an ergonomic assessment. Hmm. Yeah, and all ADA compliant. So if you use it as a pre-hire assessment, it would stand up, in a court of law if you decided not to hire that person, or you can just use it as like a job assessment or a return to work functional assessment.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, commissioners? Nicole, anything else?
I don't think so, unless you guys, I mean, there's like a million things, but.
Yeah.
I
We
think,
do, currently only have one provider, so.
and for work, well, what we call work steps, which is your functional assessment for work, we only have one, and it's, North Texas. help me.
Clinics, North Texas.
Clinics, no,
Rehab?
North Texas Rehab.
North Texas Rehab, okay.
And they only have one person that does those, so if they're on vacation, we got a group hiring for the jail, we're on hold for a week. So, it'd be nice to have another place to send people for what I call work steps.
Good.
And we have one workers' comp doctor who's closed on Fridays at 4 o'clock. Monday.
Well, that's when all the injuries happen, are you kidding?
Yeah, you're not.
Just options are good.
And I will say, in my experience in working with cities, municipalities, ISDs, counties, the best thing to do is to kind of customize and go through that protocol, right? So that when they come in, you really want to know what's, that just eliminates the error there. So if you guys are, I think we are set up on the injury side, but not the non-injury side.
But Tanya, can you and Kenneth and Sonia take a tour of the facility or kind of go over there and meet the people and?
Yeah, and we know Misty,
Oh, okay.
is it the same physical therapist?
Mhm.
We've not met him.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's the same, just the signs.
Yeah, and I've not been to the clinic, they've always come out to us, but, yeah, you can tour, yes, we can.
I love it.
But,
I put it as an extra.
Yeah,
Okay.
the transportation element might solve some problems as well.
See?
Yeah, they can probably come pick you up, take you out there.
there you go, schedule a ride.
Save some gas money.
Schedule it. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I think I still owe you guys a portal demo too, unless you figured it out already.
I've gone through it, but I mean, I could always use a little.
Well, huh.
I just
Training.
wish your email still didn't, it didn't come through my email.
Yours got stuck in
Yep.
some weird
Yep.
vortex?
Yep.
Oh dear.
So,
Well, I'm not IT,
Okay.
so I'll try to resend it then.
thank you.
All right.
I think we should fully disclose that the reason Mickey didn't notice the rattlesnake bite was the scorpion in his other boot was.
Well, I just have one more question.
Nothing to see here, yeah.
Do you have both feet
Yeah.
down there still, or like both?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where these, I just like picture just like a weird.
The only medicine I took for the whole thing was Zyrtec and whiskey.
That's why your pain scale is,
Worked.
yeah, big.
I mean, it was very painful.
Didn't miss a day.
Wichita Falls medicine is wild.
He even topped it all off, but when his ankle was that big.
Yeah, that's what
he volunteered to be tased.
Mickey, shall I show her the tasing video?
Let's keep things moving.
Oh my gosh.
We
got it.
thank
We
you for
got
that
it.
presentation.
Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you.
It's a classic.
Oh my gosh. I'm coming back for lunch.
We'll still be here.
Okay.
Item number 4, review and discuss proposed changes to the Wichita County Policy Manual regarding criminal history records information, including proper access, use, and dissemination procedures as required by the Texas Department of Public Safety, and consider adding the changes as Appendix K to the policy manual. Ms.
Okay.
Rushing.
My presentation will be very short compared to the others, and I told
Do we
Matt
have
earlier.
anything up on screens
No,
or?
no, it should be in your,
It's in your back.
Computer's
it's
asleep.
criminal history records information.
Been to sleep for.
Okay.
And it is I went back and forth on this because it is a 4-page document. I really didn't wanna have it as a standalone policy because it's hard enough to get people to look at the policy manual now. And if I create another separate standalone, they're not gonna look at that either. But we did an audit, or had an audit with, Department of Public Safety, because that's who we use for our criminal history checks. And we found that we were doing some things incorrectly. And they also, this is their template for a policy on how to handle those records. And so after their, audit and with some corrections that we made, this is what they wanna see done with their records. And the biggest thing that we were doing, sometimes we would print the criminal history report. We cannot do that anymore. So it's gonna be on a need-to-know basis, as it always has been. And, but because this is a free service for us, I don't wanna mess anything up with DPS. There are services we can pay for, but this is a real good thing for us. And Sonia and I are the only ones that right now have access or have ever had access to run those reports. She does them predominantly. We're gonna see about having Kenneth added because he does a lot of her backup. But we wanna make sure that we stay in their good graces and follow their policy as far as access to criminal history information.
And really, adopting this, it's really going to affect 3 people in your office and how you do your know what you're supposed to do. Okay.
And that's it.
Any questions?
Brief question. So I had an office, needed a criminal background checker this week, so we just send them to you now? Or-
No, I mean,
But we still send them to the sheriff's office?
we've never sent them to the sheriff's office. So you had a
I had somebody that needed a criminal background check for,
Send them to
for,
Sonia.
send them to
Or
Sonia.
send them to us.
Okay.
If you'll always do all human resources, we pick out what we're supposed to do, so that makes it a lot
Okay.
easier. But Sonia will run them, and then we usually get them back in 1 to 3 days, usually 1 day. But if there's an issue with the background, sometimes it takes a little longer.
But you are correct, Commissioner, before Tanya came in, it was being sent to
The
the
sheriff.
sheriff's office.
Okay.
Yeah. And the sheriff's department, they do their own background checks for law enforcement, but we just
Right.
do the regular employees.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other questions on this item? Anything else on it? Okay. Item number 5, discussion regarding the planning of host court night for the 97th Annual West Texas County Judges and Commissioners Association Conference in April 2026. Commissioner Watts?
Yes, so coming up in April of next year will be our turn to serve as host court for the West Texas County Judges and Commissioners Association, which will be here in Wichita Falls. That's going to be the last week of April next year. And we have an upcoming meeting this next week, and I wanted to kind of get an ideal of what we may need to be thinking about and start doing some groundwork, because it'll be on top of us before we know it. I've spoke to Purdue about maybe assisting with this with us, maybe conjoining our activity, because the impact is going to be basically the largest venue that we can actually utilize that will host something of the size needed. Our host night will be on the Tuesday night of the convention.
So
And-
night 1, right? The first night.
Yes. And then the next night will be followed by Warren Cat with their Jake Hooper. And he'll come play and they'll do barbecue. And then right now Thursday night is open as well. There's nothing set in stone for Thursday night. It would be typically on your own as it stands right now, unless we saw a need to flip-flop those or something. But the initial, just initial thoughts was maybe working out a agreement with the casino to maybe come and transport us to that facility. They have apparently a program in place that furnishes a little bit of gambling money, as well as offering a buffet to all the attendees or to go, and then shuttle those back and forth maybe on the hour back to the host hotel here, which would be the Delta. Possibly, I guess, catch a second hotel. I don't know what that second hotel is that we're gonna bleed over to.
I
Fairfield,
don't know
maybe.
what they're, but probably the Fairfield that's on the expressway. Yeah.
That should be.
I think that would be enough in there.
But that's the only thought. I just didn't know what we could do in lieu of that wouldn't involve us basically being the cooks for that. And I guess we still, even doing it at the impact, would have to make sure that we meet the criteria involved to be a cook at.
I don't think you can. Right now, the way they're set up, you have to use their catering or
I
pay them
see.
Yeah.
for it.
Maverick stuff can't get in there?
They've got special arrangements, I think, for certain things. I think you have to pay a fee.
It's
to
a
allow
big,
it, but
Barry, didn't y'all run into that recently with soil and water?
yeah,
you
and
have to pay a fee. It's not insubstantial either, is it, Barry?
no, it's not.
It was like a tip, a gratuity.
No, you had
Percentage,
to pay,
wasn't
you had to pay like a whole meal price.
You're paying a percentage of the gross price, not the net price, which includes tax, and which I had a problem with that, but I didn't win, so anyway.
So, I mean, the,
What tax? The city tax or hotel motel tax?
and all that.
You know, I guess all that, I don't know, it was tax, so, on the bill, and anyway.
and Jeff, you recall
Is
that,
it 15%? Does that sound right? I think that's right, maybe more than that, yeah. I mean, it was significant, and it just, I don't know.
most host courts typically, to fund this, they do get sponsors to offset it.
And I'll gather that information entirely on, I believe it's Wednesday or Thursday we meet. And so I'll be able to maybe poll everyone to see how that's typically been done in the past. I don't remember, the one that comes to my mind that we all kind of go to, the prime rib at College Station.
Yeah.
I just don't know who's there that's a vendor that actually underwrites that, because I'm only used to seeing the court. But
That's
Well,
Aggie meat
Linebarger
club, so they
kind
probably
usually
get
does,
a-
but that's a, but I don't know, Purdue.
Purdue usually does a lot of them.
I just wasn't sure, because if we're gonna fund it, we'll do bologna sandwiches out on the.
from Blue Bonnet
At Lucy
Grocery,
Park.
called in those orders.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Well, Lubbock does that too with the Red Raider meat. The
Well,
Red Raider
yeah.
Meat Club and the Aggie Meat Club, they're the ones that do that, so they may get a discount for doing that. I don't know.
Well, I'll
It's
chaperone
good,
the
I know
casino
that.
bus for free. I won't charge you.
Do what?
I said, I'll chaperone the casino
Oh,
bus for
So
free.
they set aside a room for us for our buffet, or were we?
It's okay.
At
Or we
the,
just-
at the
yeah.
Kiowa.
Yeah.
Mark, we haven't got, Lindsay is helping us gather that information from MPEC. And so Tony had reached out to her to give us the comprehensive package of what that entails. I don't know, I haven't been over there to the facility, I don't know kind of
I'm
the
not familiar
layout
with it
really.
either.
I think this is meant to be more of a brainstorming session of things to
Consider.
investigate and get more
Okay.
details on, not a final thing, so.
And I don't even know what's on the buffet, Mark. I don't know if it's a standard fare that they do. I just don't know.
It's a cafeteria type, and the buffet is, they've got, several vegetables, 3 or 4 meats.
It's like a
yeah, and-
Luby's
And then it's got a
venue
dessert
type
and a
thing?
salad bar, and
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
not that I eat there all the time,
Well, is it bad crowded? Like, I mean, if we went on a Tuesday night, is the casino generally,
Wouldn't be as bad then as it would be a
but it's not
weekend, I
good.
wouldn't
Tuesday
think.
night wouldn't be bad.
Dan, would you like to say anything on this?
No, I'm not in the casino on Tuesday night. Wednesday night.
And I'm sure there'll, I don't, as we as the court, on that night, we won't offer any, if some people don't wanna go to that, there's nothing else available to them.
not typically, I mean, I'm not, I've
Usually-
never noticed
There's
where
typically
there's
not
an
all-
No, there's
option.
not all.
Programming
Yeah.
anyway.
And that conference is gonna be, start on Tuesday or start on Monday?
It'll start on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, there may be an early bird session that afternoon of Monday. I can tell you right quick.
So right now, we have things already set up for Tuesday night and Wednesday night?
Yeah, host court night would be Tuesday night. and then the
Yes,
Wednesday
that's
night's
the,
Wednesday.
let me see.
But what about the free day programs, the golf and all that?
That is on Thursday, Mark.
Are we,
Uh,
are we handling that, or is the
No,
convention visitors?
the association would
Yeah,
handle
the
it.
association is-
We don't have to, do anything. They'll actually
That's
gather
nice.
the sponsorships. Let's see here.
West Texas Association handles that.
Yeah.
Sets all that up.
Yeah, really the only thing we need to handle is the court for this is the court night.
Yeah, a registration, Mickey, opens Monday at 3, through 5, and then, again, Tuesday morning at 8:30 it opens, and then it starts early bird session at 9:30 that morning, and then they have, as it stands right now, host court set up for, 6 p.m. on Tuesday night.
And
Could
typically
we,
we're talking how many people?
300.
300? Because that's the issue of trying to find a venue
yeah,
here. Is any place in town that can
Could-
host that many?
could we do an early reception for host court night at Impact, and then anyone that wants to go on the buses going over for the dinner and et cetera?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be acceptable
That
too.
way,
That would be,
Not everyone's gonna wanna go to the casino,
right.
but if we did an hors d'oeuvre and drink reception,
What, a 5 to 6 or a
yeah, something
4:30
like
to
that.
6, something like that? I don't
How,
know.
So
if
Classes
we got on
probably
a bus
won't go
here, if
5.
we did a 5 to 6, say, with
Get
the
on the bus,
reception of just
6:30.
thanking you for attending Wichita Falls reception, and then they get on the bus here at 6, what time could they be at the casino? You think it's like
30
20?
minutes.
30
It's
minutes?
15 minutes.
It's 30, it's more, it's 15.
Margaret, how long does it take you to drive to the casino?
15 to 20 minutes. Yeah,
I'd
from
say-
downtown, 15 minutes.
I'd
Be
say
sure and get that.
We get a
minutes.
sheriff's
Yeah.
escort get there at 10.
I really have not gone there in forever. I know it's saying.
goodness. And then-
In the first, yeah.
Yeah, it gives them a place to gather, and maybe don't try to crowd on the buses as fast. They
Yeah.
could munch a little here, and then we take them over there, and they can start flowing through. The bus effect will allow us not to have this huge herd all at one time to go through the buffet line. That'll help, I guess.
I think it's a good idea because also I think if you make advantage of the casino option, the cost goes down significantly over what it typically would be otherwise, which means you can help with, do some of that for the pre-reception instead.
Yeah, we can do the reception at the hotel.
Urban air, there's not much here.
Yeah, yeah, that would be
And-
great.
I think that would help.
I think they'll participate at Urban Air.
Urban air.
And I just, if we needed a room, I probably need to mention that this coming week. I just didn't know, before in the past, I know that we have cooked, for a host court night, and we did fish. It's a big undertaking,
We'll
and
get-
it is a
Yeah,
lot of
if it-
work.
Maybe we can get
300
Bruckner's
people
to
is
sponsor our reception,
Could be, yeah.
because they're one of our,
Finding hosts for, vendors for that's not a
Yeah.
big deal, but
but we need to think about that.
we definitely don't wanna do anything Thursday night though, either. I'd say leave Thursday if some of the vendors wanna take any of the.
And
That's what
that'd
usually
be-
happens.
I've always gone home before that Thursday night.
That's what usually happens, so.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
the Commissioner Fincan had mentioned Tuesday night was a better night
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that, I thought.
Thursday gives you a chance to go back to casino and even up.
Well,
Okay?
I'll gather some options at the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that hors d'oeuvres and things would be something that we would get a package for from the hotel, right?
I would think so.
I went to a deal, and I'm trying to remember when it was and what the occasion was, that they took us to the casino and they had dinner like in an area there, and you just casually went in and ate as you want to. It really worked good, like, even for a big crowd.
Well-
I don't remember what it was, but
The, so Mark mentioned Bruckner's, what's some other potentials outside, so that the burden wouldn't be entirely, we wouldn't rely or have to get Purdue to.
I would suggest when you ask the association, I bet, ask them for their list of the
I bet
vendors
they
the
will.
last
Vendor
couple
list.
of years, and we can kind of work through that.
If we're gonna do local, then we ought to reach out to, you know, Yellow House.
Yellow
House.
Quality Equipment,
Yeah,
the people that we tend to be, people that we tend to go out for bids for equipment, stuff like that, they're usually the ones that are gonna sponsor events.
Initially, when hearing about the casino idea, I sort of recoiled from it. I've since come around, but I did want to just, put this out there. Y'all see any issue with the Wichita County, Texas host court night? We have the pre-reception here, but then being hosted in the state of Oklahoma.
It's been done by
Has it?
numbers, yeah, by
Well-
numbers.
I mean, I would rather it all be in Texas, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of those, I've heard it before. I've been asked at conferences, when y'all host that, are we going to the casino?
It is
I mean, they
it is
wanna,
a-
cause they're right here by the
It's
casino,
unique.
they
It
wanna know.
really is a
feature.
unique deal, yeah.
It's just an amenity we have close to us.
Well, and
You-
that's a good point, is that, no other city can really do that. Maybe Gainesville,
Yeah.
or Denison possibly, but we have just such close proximity.
Access
And
to it.
people, they always ask you about
Yeah.
that. There's a couple of those board members that travel here to go to this casino.
Do we need to set aside a separate fund for Uber to get them back to their home counties if they run out and lose their cars? And
Yeah, and
I
stay
mean,
late. Yeah,
we've told
yeah.
them all that people don't go there and win.
They do for crowds, though, they also set up an outdoor facility, and if I say tent, you're gonna go, ugh, but it's really nice. And
Yeah.
they set
Oh,
up
they do?
tables and the buffet line there
Oh,
for
okay.
separate.
so it would be our own thing. That's what I was concerned
I
about,
know,
because
They're used to doing that. I mean,
Yeah, they
they're-
do it.
they've done-
Because typically host court night, you give away some door prizes and things like that, so
Yeah.
I wondered how that would work with
Right.
them.
No, that would be very nice, I would think, to have our own,
we could even do them at both the pre-reception too,
Yeah.
just as a, you'll do half there and
Yeah.
half at the thing.
well, do you think that, this name crossed my mind, but that Butler Cohen group would maybe help with the reception?
I
know
think we
they
look
do
at that whole vendor list.
Yeah.
And just sort of put the call out.
I'm betting they've got people that
Uh-huh.
specifically kind of
That
do
do
that.
that, yeah.
That's their thing.
That's true.
But
And,
Well, and there's a publication of all the vendors that are, part of this group that have signed up already, so there may be some, but, certainly for Purdue to have the recognition of being, the largest helper, but if we can keep from burdening.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we're even talking about. The
Yeah.
casino may underwrite a lot of this.
And Judge, we're a Tyler Technologies
Yep.
yeah,
community. and
Tyler's a big
they
vendor.
they support most of the conferences.
I think we're gonna not have trouble finding
that's
Yeah.
right.
sponsors.
Tyler's not generally a big sponsor at our meetings, but
No, but
they're there, they're always there.
Yeah, and we're a full-blown Tyler
Yeah.
County at this
Okay.
point.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
We're gonna have a snake handling service.
There you go.
No other thoughts that, outside of just kind of what we talked about, was there a third option that anybody wanted me to check through or just see what we're talking about, or?
It's funny, I think our options, the ones that has come to my mind would be much bigger if Warren Cat weren't doing that thing the next night, because music and
Yeah.
barbecue.
That's a pretty big deal, yeah.
Kinda hard to turn that down.
It's hard to turn that down, and
Oh,
two
yeah.
nights in a row, no one's gonna
No.
complain about barbecue 2 nights in a row, but, again, it is a unique thing that we're so close to.
Well, and then you've got the whole, I was asking the judge of some things, and we have to, if we did something like that meal, we nearly need some form of entertainment and to couple with it, and that puts you at a second, option you're looking at, so.
I think-
Beach 'em.
I think bringing the Midwestern Pan Band for our reception would still be really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'Cause that's
Yeah.
very unique.
Very
it
unique.
is
Something
unique.
that we
It
don't, no
is.
one else has.
Yeah, that is.
Are they still?
The last time I knew anything
Yeah.
about it, they were.
They're really
So I-
very,
They're really
very
That's a good
entertaining.
fun to
I
listen
think
to.
that would be fun,
Yeah,
and
That's
tell
a good
everybody to
idea.
wear their Hawaiian Flaherty shirts and,
yeah.
I can do that.
and be something completely unique that, because we always have a country band play.
Yeah.
at all of our other
And we will
conferences,
again.
so-
Yeah, and that'll be
Yeah, we
happening
will,
Wednesday,
yeah.
so.
Same band we always have.
Yeah, so, and getting the Midwestern piece is part of this too, is a good
Yeah.
line, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That Warren deal is always well done.
When we went to Lubbock, they sure had Texas Tech represented at host court night,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so
Yeah, that's
they,
true.
they were, the largest part of host court night was Texas Tech.
We'll get the cycling team going in and out of the attendees all day.
Well, what is when I see I'm assuming they're city buses that run, but they have the Kiowa Casino
They have
wrap
buses.
on there. Is
They-
that just
Yeah,
a?
That's
They,
the city
they have two
advertising.
buses.
You what?
They have two, Kiowa has two big buses.
Big buses
buses.
that are like the city's buses that
They're
size?
like the
They're
Trailways
charter
buses,
buses.
charter buses, yeah.
Okay.
They do that a lot, don't they, for things that come here? I've seen.
Bicycle idea, so I went.
There's some
there-
piece to.
There's, I went to a reception in Houston at the Texas Trails, and they had a bicycle margarita machine. So if you wanted a margarita, you had to get on the bike and pedal to make your
Really?
Maybe I can reach out to those folks and see where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if y'all have got any other ideas besides that, that's why I wanted to have this
Yeah.
discussion. Cause I mean, and Jeff and I were talking, I thought venues that can host 300 people, I thought Riverbend could do that at the outside pavilion. But then we ran into the entertainment side of it. We could find it, but most of the stuff's probably gonna double up with what else is going on the rest of the week.
It's hard to find a place to put 300 people
It is
in
for
the
a
entertainment.
But I mean, that many people, which I don't think that all of those would go over the casino, but it won't be elbow to elbow or nothing, would it? I mean, isn't it big enough
Yeah,
that it,
they can handle it.
okay.
I'm glad we have you as a casino expert.
Put Tony in charge and let her take care
This
of
is
it.
April 26th, isn't it?
Yeah.
April 26th.
Yes.
Yeah.
8 months from now.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
Well, we talked about it when we signed up for this. This thing will come quicker than you think.
Right.
And it sure will now.
The first year I worked in the auditor's office, we did the auditor's conference here right after I started. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was rough to put together.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
We split up everybody and let them, we had different choices because there was nowhere to take that many people.
Right.
And there was no casino. So
Which-
like I had a bus and somebody else in the office had a bus and we all, I mean, it was so crazy. We took them to the scrapbooking store because that was a big thing then. And
Sure.
where they lived didn't have scrapbooking stores and it was just little obscure places to eat. It was hard to do.
Yeah.
Well, and then, so, let me jump, if there's not additional on that, I do need some thoughts about, women, the spousal,
Spouse
package
day.
that they're going to get to go and do and see. Give me a few ideals on that, what would be fun for, I mean, is that a museum trip, is it a?
Casino.
They might want to take a boat out to the casino.
Go back to the casino.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say.
There you
If they're sitting around while their husband's doing other stuff, I would think they'd wanna do some type of spa thing
Yeah.
or that would
No,
be
they do.
relaxing, something to relax.
Yeah.
They have cooking sometimes, they have cookie
Now, a
decorating,
cooking-
cake decorating.
Urban
You know,
Different
very
things.
popular thing is to go learn about cooking, doing something.
We got a facility we can do that in now,
Yeah,
that belongs to the
And
county.
some of them might wanna do that, for sure.
yeah.
I don't know what museum to go to, that would be good.
I'm gonna throw out pickleball.
There
You
you
get pretty relaxed at the casino.
They might like it.
Yeah, I know. I like it. They might like it.
Pickleball.
Is there,
Don't want a bunch of hobbled up.
On the day, on the deal.
We'll do both, yeah.
Well, what about is there such a thing as a downtown tour, or to get to go in and out some of the buildings that are
Yeah.
downtown?
See,
that
we
you
did
go-
something, that was so many years ago, that was 2003, but we took them to the Wichita and all around different stuff, but that hasn't, I
kinda-
don't remember.
I mean, I think if Convention and Visitors
Okay.
Bureau, I think if we tell them,
Yeah.
we wanna do 3 things that are
Winery.
showcasing with, they can put that together.
You
They
say
go on a
wine?
haunted
The
tour
winery.
at night.
The winery is,
Yeah.
the winery would be a,
Oh,
yeah.
At
it
2
would-
o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah, they would.
Well, I'm
Okay.
sure Scott
Yeah,
put
they
together
would.
something really cool.
Cheese.
for you.
Dig off the go.
They're on a bus, they're not working.
Well,
yeah,
she
you
said
get
they
to-
wanna relax.
That's fair.
So just follow and go to the winery. Good day.
Yeah, I can see more of them doing that probably than pickleball.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the winery would be probably the top of the list.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
I'm lame and no fun, and I'll be the first.
Well,
to
I'm
admit
just gonna
it.
tell you that the age of the crowd and what they're think is relaxing, maybe not pickleball.
Let me ask you this, who is the contact for, what's taking over, a lot on the outside, is the, skeet shooting? Where, do we have a facility?
We got a gun guy.
Well, and I don't have a facility there for it. I mean, we could do it there, but you'd be
Does-
better off to get a hold of that gentleman out there on
How
precinct.
about pistol shooting?
Well, I guess that's a ideal
Skeet shooting's
too.
fun.
That, the skeet shooting though, I mean,
Yeah.
the lady out there on,
Iowa Park?
in Iowa Park would
Okay.
probably be the one to talk to if you were gonna do
Yeah,
what.
West Texas it's the biggest conference, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
It is.
Always.
It's almost as big as the,
As the
as
state,
the
in
state
fact, I think
conference.
times it's been bigger than the state meeting.
Yeah, you might hit closer to 400 people once you
Good.
throw in spouses.
They find out Margaret's taking them to the casino.
Again.
Yeah,
I'll take the ladies to the spot.
There you go, on the Thursday. And Jeff, you'll just give those contacts to them, and they track all that down. Right?
Okay, yes, yes.
Good.
Is that, Mickey, do you know the name of the club in Iowa Park?
No, it's an individual that owns that place.
Okay.
So it's not really a club.
Is that the shooting range?
Yes, I thought
Well,
Sonny Cook was involved
Out by
on
the
that.
lake?
No, I'm talking about the one out there by the prison, that lady that has that.
Oh, okay. I'm not-
By the prison?
Isn't that Kelly Maloney's sister?
No,
That's a different one.
yeah, it's different. She, I'll have to get information.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one by the lake.
Yeah, that's the gun club. They're active. I hear them shooting over there all the time on
And
weekends.
that, the gun club there might be the way to go.
Yeah, they're active.
They
I
have
mean,
those facilities, I
You
know,
might
I
even,
just.
you might reach out to Field and Stream to see if they would be interested.
Is their
in-
facility still available? We did a deal out there
Yeah.
a number of years ago. We cooked for them. I
Right.
can't remember what it was now.
Field and Stream would be worth reaching out to. 'cause
Yeah,
they
that's
got-
out
they got
north of
facilities.
town, right?
Yeah, out with the base.
It's,
Okay.
it's pretty close.
Yeah, just east of the base there, I
Okay.
think.
Cool.
You're gonna have to get buses outside of the casino ones to tote these people around, but the parking's gonna be.
Yeah, and I think on during the actual events during the day and stuff, City of Wichita Falls, we could
We could
contract that.
load them up in the back of a pickup with shotguns, let them shoot the signs.
Oh, real West Texas.
There are people that are really good at that.
Well, I think we've
Oh,
reached the end of part of this discussion.
Oh, mercy.
We can do pickleball on Thursday with all the tournaments. Tournament.
Maybe that is right, we do have one.
I get hurt every time I play. Maybe that's not a good idea. Jeff, does that give you?
Yeah,
what
that
you
gives me a lot of good info here.
Everybody has to understand, we went to one of these West Texas conferences here several years ago, and Jeff signs us up for what do you call it?
Cornhole.
And none of us had ever played cornhole in our life, and we went 3 rounds. And I'll tell you where everybody else is.
I'll say we had the very first ever West Texas half marathon. So.
Yeah, there you go. Now, that might not be bad, Mark, for an early morning thing.
And all
at 8.
Yeah.
Mark's still winning first out of 8.
let's get our industrial
I'll-
healthcare deal put together.
I'll just put it this way, sort of similar to the comment about pickleball being relaxing. Based on what I have observed over the crowds that attend West Texas,
You might get 3.
I don't think that the half marathon's going to be well attended. But
Or,
all right.
depends on how
They
big the
walk
division
or
is.
wheelchair race or something.
All right, let's move on then to item number 6, which is review and discuss jail maintenance projects and work orders.
He left. He said it wasn't worth staying.
Are you giving the report?
No.
Oh.
Chief Rutledge got called away on an emergency call. He
Okay.
said he would send you the information he normally provides later on.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to know he didn't just leave because he was tired of waiting. Okay. Item number 7 then is receive status report on salaries and overtime.
Back in again.
Chief
Wilmer sent-
Rutledge left before we perjured ourselves or something.
Wilmer sent that out yesterday morning at 7:59. While we're looking at it, anything, Matt, or anything for y'all to report that's out of the ordinary?
No, sir. Overtime is pretty much average. That's really all there was. This was the third payroll ending in July, so that's why it's a little bit higher, because there's no benefits being paid out by the employees.
Just note that when I started, it was running around 670,000 every 2 weeks, and now it's 930,000.
We're sitting about 900,000 on a normal payroll, and like I said, this is just because those benefits. That this one's a little bit higher.
So across the board, probably in the last 7 years, 8 years, about a 30%.
No, that'd be a 50% increase.
No, it's 650 to
Oh,
900.
the wage is 600.
That's I mean, there's been some substantial increases in pay in Wichita County, is what I'm saying.
Well, I think there's been substantial pay increases in
Everywhere.
the economy as a whole because of
Yeah.
inflation. But
Yeah, you can't hire. I can't hire people to go clean
Right.
up trash at a job site for.
I use the McDonald menu as a good filler for that of what were price of a,
Mm-hmm.
of a
Absolutely.
value meal at McDonald's 8 years ago. It wasn't $10.
Right.
Yeah.
$560 still is projected to come in
Mm-hmm.
under budget on salary. I haven't gotten to 561 yet. I'm sure I'll see the same thing there.
Nope. I think it's a pretty good cushion. I think it's like 130,000.
It is. Now, of course, it gets wiped away by the $1.2 million
Yep.
deficit projected in 561. Is there any magic on the projections, or is it just what it would be at this rate for the rest of the year number calculation? Okay. I'm learning those accountant folks, they've got all sorts of magic numbers they can throw out there if they need to.
Make it look however you want it to look.
No, those are statisticians. That's a different
Yeah.
deal.
Appraisers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Statisticians will come up with whatever answer you want
Yeah.
them to give you.
Mm-hmm. There's a system in Excel that'll do that for you. It's a solver add-in. Learn that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The total annual wages listed on our sheet, is that projected wages? That, it's the last column to the right.
That's the total estimated annual wages.
Okay.
Yep,
Projected through the end of the year.
correct.
Man. Oh, there's one. I was going to say, There's not as many jailers making over 100,000 right now.
It's typically only been just the one.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know what that average is, but it's probably in 60,000.
Well, and keep in mind that with that, you have the employees that were previously working for the jail that earlier this year that are no longer working in there, so that's why you're gonna have some fluctuations in those. But yeah, I mean, some of them get up to 75, 76,000.
All right, any questions or comments on this item? I don't wanna move too fast if y'all are still looking at it, but.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
No, me too, yeah, it's good.
Okay. Let's move to item number 8, which is review and discuss regular bills. I think, Margaret, you sent over 2 of them, so make sure you look at the last one. That was yesterday at 3:31 PM.
Yes.
Sorry, 2:24 PM.
Is Action Battery the same as Interstate Battery?
No.
No.
That's 2 different places?
Yes.
Okay, it's not, I thought maybe Action Battery sold Interstate Batteries, but.
No. Interstate batteries.
Are they close to the same place?
No, they're on Scott, I mean, the motorcycle place on Scott Street is the Interstate Battery place.
You mean right here, close to like 12th Street?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and Action is out by where the golf carts are on Jacksboro Highway?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, no,
It's
it's across
Galveston.
from Royal Tire. there.
Galveston.
Yeah.
Galveston
Royal
and
Tire,
Jacksboro.
Yeah.
I spend too much money there.
I think we all do.
I mean, personally.
Yeah, you think about a place where there's inflation, Mickey, those batteries,
Mm.
about as tough as.
Tire
anything.
shop and batteries.
That deal's tough now.
And insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Insurance is also, am I the only one in here that's insurance poor?
Man, no way.
My gosh. It all comes due at the same time.
Yep. I can afford that, do you?
Guys, I know that chip sealing oil we've been using the last few weeks has hit us pretty hard as far as this budget's concerned, but I'll tell you, after making a pass around yesterday and looking at some of that stuff, this is probably the best job we've done, I think, in a long time overall. It's much better than it was a year or 2 ago. It really is an improvement. And I really think we're gonna get some longevity out of that deal that we haven't been getting, so it might wind up being
Did,
a good
Did any of
decision.
us use 3/8 as a top
Yeah.
coat?
You know,
You did?
Mm-hmm.
I went with 5/8
Me
all the
too.
way. And I mean, I can tell the difference on the road, but still seems just a
it's,
bit heavy on gravel than what I would,
almost like it just a hair bit less.
Well, and I think now, Mickey,
Walnut's
they're able to
3/8.
tweak that, computer on the, rock box a lot better. They kinda learned a couple of tricks this go round, so they could par it back if need be.
But it is a smooth as I've ever seen.
Right.
it's good. Even the transitions are much better than where they've been in the past. That's where we've kinda struggled, where you change trucks and it's better. It's just got to bring us some.
There's, just wanted to clarify on one item. There's a new item that I don't think we've seen before. Red River Hospital's on here. It's listed as charity court costs. That is a reimbursement to them for court fees paid for mental health. The legislature made a law change in the previous session, 88th, that required court costs to be reimbursed to private facilities from patients who just have Medicaid. And so came aware of that, we worked with them, but you'll see a few of those a year come on. Just wanted y'all to know. 'Cause it's, it's a reimbursement, it's not a payment per se.
Matt, do you see regularly at the bill for the city of Wichita Falls in the trade for dispatching and the jail services?
No, sir. I don't think we get that, what, once a year?
Yeah, I don't.
Do we, is it something that we're still doing?
I mean, yes, the sheriff's office is still utilizing part of their dispatch services, but I don't know
And then
that
don't the
it's-
city pay us towards their inmate retention or here?
Mhm.
But it doesn't happen on a monthly basis?
The amount for the inmate happens on a monthly basis, but the dispatch, I'm pretty sure, is annual. And I mean, it's, neither one of them's considerable amount of money.
I see United Regional Indigent bill. I thought we'd already hit.
We
Yeah.
did, but what happens is they give us a reimbursement on some people, somebody, they found out had Medicaid or something, and they go file it, and they send us the money back, and so I have to pay back up to that amount.
Yep.
And I just got 3 checks yesterday after I did that, where, one of them is a client that died, and I don't know what happened, but they just gave us all the money back. So I got 3 checks yesterday, so I'll have to make another payment to match that obligation
Okay.
again to keep it.
We hit the cap, we get
Yes.
reimbursed, which brings us
Yep.
below the cap,
Correct.
and so we're
Yes.
constantly just.
Are we sharing our information with them some way when we find one of our clients has insurance now? Or do they have the same ability to do
I
that?
believe they have the same ability. I
Yes.
actually think Leslie's been doing it longer and has
Right.
been working
Yeah.
out. She's very good at
Okay.
doing it, and she finds stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Which is part of the reason why we get those reimbursements.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's a good question to make sure we're sharing the information.
We did pay out some items on the ARPA list for the Wichita Valley.
What was that first, what was that underground one? What is that?
It's a contractor.
Which
The-
one?
The Whitley,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the contractor for the one installing the water lines.
Are they boring underneath the intersections?
Not sure,
They
Commissioner.
have been.
I just
don't know
wondered
where
if
they're
that
at
was
now.
that group. I didn't
It's the
know.
same company laying the water lines as it is. That's why I was
Okay.
curious about that.
Well, we wouldn't see the subcontractor to the contractor though, would we? They. What, Smoky's Naturals?
That's an investigator.
Yeah.
That's just the name of their company.
Yeah.
They're an investigator.
Yep.
All kinds of different
Yeah.
pictures of that one.
Yeah.
That's that new barbecue place.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any indication
Yeah.
as to where that water project is gonna come in as far as our projections?
It will be over the 4.5. So
Okay.
the 2.85 or whatever it is going to be just the water lines, and then they also have another $1 million allocated towards the pump station. So with that, plus the fees that we've paid previously, we will be over the 4.5. And I mean, we've already in the last 3 weeks received $600,000 worth of expenses on this, on them laying the piping and all that stuff.
I think Matt's concerns about not fully utilizing the ARPA funds have been put to bed over the
Well,
last
and
few weeks.
I thought we
Getting
had a little
close.
leeway in that deal, but I didn't know exactly what it was. That's why, usually when you get into one of those projects, you get a pretty good
Well,
idea of how it's.
the actual cost came in under, but like Matt said, what we had paid out in some, engineering fees and things
Mhm.
already combined are gonna be.
Yeah. We had paid about $500,000 before they started this.
Right.
And so
But do we have enough, we can cover it? Do we got enough flexibility in that?
we're gonna cover what the county's responsible
Yeah,
for.
they're
Wichita
fine.
Valley has to cover the rest.
Yeah. Very good. I've been gonna ask that and I hadn't done it because they're moving right along.
Yeah. I imagine that we'll see most of that get eaten up by the end of this year. And then we have the ambulance outstanding for next year, and we have
Jail.
Burke, and then jail premium pay.
The
And that's
Burke,
it.
we've not acted on, they've not called on any money for anything.
Correct.
I thought maybe they had that done, but anyway, that's good.
The water line is going to allow them, y'all may have noticed that, what's the pipeline group? CP,
SBS?
SBS or?
SPS, I think.
SPS.
Yeah, I think so. You see
Have
the
moved
truck
into
around.
the old, yellow iron building there, or, I don't know.
Right there by the
exactly.
truck
The
stop,
equipment, yeah, the
369.
equipment yard.
Yeah.
So that water is going to, City of Wichita Falls water is going to be able to put water back at the intersection, the corner on the west side, and then go on down.
The city's gonna supply them water?
Uh-huh, yeah, so that's a pretty huge group out there.
It is, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of vehicles.
Oh, a
on
bunch
that-
of vehicles.
On that lot. I thought maybe that was just temporary. I'm glad to know that's.
Well, if they ran water to that other side now, that area it'll build. now.
Oh, it'll build.
That's the only reason.
We've given, Commissioner, just to clarify what you meant on Burke earlier, we've given the city of Burke their money for the water.
Oh, okay.
My understanding is they're still working on that. I talked to Lindsay, and we don't have a completion date on that as of yet. When I said Burke, I meant
Annex.
the annex.
Oh, okay,
construction.
yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay.
They are currently, on the, as far as that disposal line, they're currently, the
I was thinking wrong.
company
too.
that does their
Yeah,
sewer
I
now
think-
is currently working on that project. So
I think
they'll
they
get
were
that
working
money.
on it, that's why I
They'll
was
get that.
curious about it.
They'll get that spent before too long.
All right. Any other questions? I would just like to compliment our ray of sunshine for his bright yellow shirt. Looks very nice.
I am in a bright.
Thank you for brightening my day.
I've got the apron that matches that, thank you.
All right, it is 12:09 and court is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.